Hello everybody, Mike here with C-Store Center, and today I want to kind of review this back office training module from GAS POS. GAS POS is, from what I understand, a new player in the market, and they seem to be very creative and coming up with some good stuff. So let's get started, and I'm going to point out things that I see and just to review, okay?
This is the Agility Next back office system from GAS POS. It is brought to you as part of your Intrepid point of sale system. So you'll receive an email with a link to the web address that this system resides, and as well as your login and password information, so that you'll have access to all of your daily reports and this full back office system ready for you to use.
Okay, before he gets in, too much in depth, I just want to say, I like that there's a comparison. You have 2021. Obviously, there's no information, right? But you've got your 7 days, and we used to use 13-week trends when I was in the industry. So that was something that you always wanted to look at. So this kind of follows along that format for merchandise sales, for your over shorts, and looks like here are your DSR dates. So your daily store reports.
Wanted to introduce you to this system today. We're going to look at daily reports, how to maintain POUs and your scan file retail prices on price book, and get those back to the register. First thing, as you close your end of day or close the day on the register, this information is summarized. The sales journal is sent up to Agility Next, and you can view it here. The homepage shows a summary of what's going on for that store for the month. This bottom right section shows the month and year, and then each column represents a day. And if you have one store, you'll have one listed. If you've got several or multiple stores, they'll all be here. You simply select the dot that corresponds to the store and date that you'd like to look at, and you're presented with a daily report.
So I wonder if I go back here a little bit, if audited date, the ones that were kind of a greenish color, if that means just ones that you've looked at and reviewed. Be interesting to know a little bit more about the color coding.
Exception-based system, so that if we see inventory issues or missing fuel sales amounts or any other type of information that might be a problem, we bring that to your attention here. Going down in the summary, we present your general information and then fuel inventory. Yesterday's stick, receipts are bills of lading. The sales come from Intrepid, and this automatically uploads from your point of sale from Intrepid to the back office system. So we've got opening, receipt, sales, ending total, and then our current inventory from your Veeder-Root system or from your stick reading. You can enter it, and it presents the overshort for the day as well as keeps it running for the total.
So at the beginning of this screen, they showed exceptions, and right now we're looking at a month-to-date overshort of 4,084 gallons, right? So what do you think caused that? If the past, if today was 39, and then on the unleaded, month-to-date it's 4,084 gallons, what do you think caused that? And something to bear in mind for those of you who may not be aware, somebody who might be new to this, looking at something like this, gas tends to expand in the heat, so temperature plays a big part. Now, I'm not saying that's the whole explanation for this 4,084 gallons, right? But for this overage, it could be a delivery that wasn't inputted. But also in the winter time when the weather gets cooler, gas tends to shrink, and that's just how that works. So if you'll probably notice that if you haven't already in your daily reports. But 4,084 gallons, that's something that you don't want to wait too long, and you want to find out what's going on there and correct it.
Total for the month. This system is EPA compliant. You can run a fuel inventory reconciliation report that will show, can use to keep your inventory records and be compliant with the state.
All right. So one of the things you can also use this for is to track, obviously your purchase versus sales. You can see what your sales were for the day. So you're over purchased right now. You purchased $802, sold 221. And this is again taking, consideration is for the day. So this is just something that for you to kind of take note of. He hasn't got into the price check yet on the fuel, but recently there was somebody in California, a store manager, who got terminated for not setting the price right, making an error, and so only selling, instead of selling gas for like $6.69 a gallon, he was selling it for 66 cents. And so it'd be nice on these, and I don't know if it's the case or not, we haven't seen, but it'd be nice if it would not let you, like it would like give you like an error if you didn't key enough digits into the, the prices to kind of avoid having that happen in the first place. I like to look at things as, frequently occurring issues. I don't think that happens all the time, but, an ounce of prevention.
Next section has fuel sales and then any retail gas price checks that you do. Next section is inside inventory. You're presented with your inventory by category. Food service is presented at cost, and then merchandise categories are presented at retail. If you do your vendor invoices, those are your purchases of inventory. These are optional. You don't have to do that, but if you do, then it will keep a perpetual inventory for you so that we know what your beginning was for the day, any purchases from invoices, any adjustments you might enter, less sales that come from the register, and that'll give you your ending book. If you were to count your inventory, you can enter those counts and it will calculate inventory over short and present you with a new begin book for the next day that is your audited inventory count. There's invoices, and then we present you with your cash and credit card totals, then break out your sales by category. And then we have a cash reconciliation. You will need to enter your deposit amount, which is the difference between sales, less tenders, less any paid outs that you might have is your cash accountable. And then take away your deposit amount, and that will show you what your cash over short for the day is.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I don't know this, but if the capabilities, if you're scanning invoices in and it's putting that in for you, that's great. But for those of you who don't, where you have to manually enter invoices or have a store manager, manually enter those, you've got to be really careful because that's an easy way to pad inventory. If, somebody's coming in, they have a delivery coming in, they just don't enter the invoices, put it on the books, and then at a later date, you have an audit, and it looks like everything's okay. So you have to be really, really careful with that. And then here, obviously, there's a variance on the fuel, 290. I don't know if that's what's contributing to some of that 1,000, but something for you to kind of take a look at.
That's the summary screen. I'm going to walk through the detail screens very quickly. Vendor invoices, if you enter those, this will help maintain your inventory, or if you enter your supplies, then that can be included in an export or a report that you print like a general ledger trial balance to hand to your accountant for taking care of the books. We're going to look at
And that looks like you can manually enter that. So again, I'm sure there's scanning capabilities, but it's something just to keep an eye on or keep in mind if you don't, for some reason, not everybody's up to date with the latest, greatest.
a food service invoice here where we bought some from Hunt. We bought some pizzas at a cost of $800. Got your invoice number, invoice date, and the amount paid. Your deposit is how much money goes to the bank. Difference.
Getting back to that invoice for the pizza, is that typical margin? I was under the impression that pizza was a lot more, and it could be that these are cost items, cartons, to put your pizza slices in or whatever the case is. Just a question if anybody wants to, shed some light on that.
Cost of $800. Got your invoice number, invoice date, and the amount paid.
And I have to stop again because this is something else. If it is, cost items like, napkins or the little cardboard boxes, whatever goes into making that pizza, right, selling it, you have theoretical margin. And this right here is an example of theoretical margin. In theory, you should be making 33%, 33.09 margin. But again, some people you might have employees who take that kind of stuff. You might have customers who, use extra or whatever the case is. And so you really should be in the habit of doing cost audits. And I mentioned that to somebody in the group, my Facebook group, because otherwise, that's really going to eat up your margins if you don't make adjustments. You're never going to have like a really true, margin.
Your deposit is how much money goes to the bank. Difference between your cash accountable and your deposits or your cash over short. You can enter one or more deposits a day. It's up to you. Some stores will enter one deposit for the entire day. Some stores will enter one deposit per shift. It's up to you. Bills of lading are our fuel deliveries. We can see those here. We'll click the edit button. We have a default fuel supplier and terminal. You can make those your own. Under the setup screen, there's an option for suppliers, terminals, and carriers. Excuse me.
Now, while we're on this screen, one of the things that I do want to share with you and I guess convey is a lot of times in independence, I've been shopping somewhere, I stop by, and there's a gas delivery truck there. And nobody goes out to verify the stick readings, what's in there at the beginning, or to verify afterwards. And in the past, historically, there have been some issues with field drivers shorting the delivery and then taking that extra fuel that they didn't give you and selling it to somebody else. You're getting billed for it, so it's very, very important that you take the time and make sure that your employees, your managers, whoever you have out there, that they're sticking the tanks before and after to make sure that you're getting delivered what you're going to get charged for, okay?
We also have an online help system. So if you select help and documentation, you're presented with the online help. For a fuel delivery, you enter the bill of lading number, select your supplier terminal, what products were delivered, put in the gross and net gallons, and then the whatever dropped into the tank. by tank. And then you
Now, he didn't really go into the help that much, but if that's like a training tool or some, support there, like how do you enter something, this is a pretty neat function, I guess, a pretty neat feature.
would also like to, I'd recommend entering your cost. You'll have an invoice for that. So just, you can lump it all into one column, or you can break it out by freight and taxes, however you need to. Price checks, the next thing. You can enter a new price check where you keep up with your competition if one of them moves. Let's say you've got people at the store, someone running the store that's not the manager.
Okay, I'm going to go back just a little bit because I think this is very important. A lot of times it seems like, and this is just seems, right? These are impressions that, and I think they're shared coming from a corporate side. A lot of times it seems like independents are just out of the market when it comes to pricing, a little slower to react. And I don't know if that's because, we have what's called a, I can't think of the term right now, but basically the cost in the tank, how much you have in there, right? And it's going to give you like a blended price, an average based on the deliveries that you've received and what those things cost. So I think this kind of can help you get a better sense of, how much you have in your tanks. So that'll help you determine whether you can react quicker or, how much longer maybe you need to wait. I don't know if anybody really takes that stuff into consideration as far as with independence, because I haven't really seen that yet. But it's a pretty neat thing if you're putting in, cost, and you can kind of figure out the cost per gallon. It doesn't show that here necessarily, but still, if you're breaking this down, it's just good information to know.
Out by freight and taxes, however you need to. Price checks, the next thing. You can enter a new price check where you keep up with your competition if one of them moves. Let's say you've got people at the store, someone running the store that's not the manager. They can enter a price check, and then that report can be printed by this manager or person who's responsible for setting the retail prices for the fuel, and they can make decisions accordingly.
And this is something else. This is what I was alluded to earlier, right? Where you should not be able to key in. I mean, although technically you're not changing the gas price here, but still, this is where you have the 4 digits or whatever, just to eliminate errors. Where it really is going to matter is when you're actually changing the price on your pumps. But still, you can also see your competitors, and I'm curious, how often are you checking gas prices or doing competitor surveys? Because we were in town the other day, and I think one of the stores was at $4.24 a gallon, and down the road it dropped to $4.07, and I'm talking about maybe 4 blocks down the road, and then we get to Sam's and they're $3.99. So you have that big disparity, and if you want to get gallons, or if you want to get customers onto your lot, it's really important that you are keeping up with those
accordingly. Fuel sales, we track gallons times price and then compare that to the console dollars. That all is populated automatically from the register. We also do fuel meters, and again, that is compared to the console and shows a variance between the meters and the sales. Fuel inventory, we keep our opening gallons, which is yesterday's ending, at gallons and cost. We track our fuel deliveries. Our sales come from the register, and then your ending total less your Veeder-Root or tank stick gallons is your overshort for the day. Again, this is all EPA compliant, legal in all 50 states. Next, we'll look at our merchandise sales screen. These are the details by category. These will be your categories from your store. Here we'll look at packaged beverages. So here's all your sodas, how many sold, their cost in retail. Depends on how you're leveraging Pricebook. If you only use it to maintain your scan retails, then you'll have a retail column with zero cost. If you're using it to track your purchases from any vendor deliveries, then the cost will be populated here.
This is a great feature as well, and I don't think it's unique to this back office, but this is really great if you want to find out if something's selling, if you're missing items. For example, let's say you have some, I don't know, sunglasses, or you suspect somebody stole something. You can come back here and kind of look for it, and then that lets you know, was it rung up or was it not rung up. The other thing that you could use this for is if you're tracking, if you have like a sales contest, you can also kind of see, which product's moving, if you have different flavors. And I'm looking at Powerade, for example. You can sort through that and look at the different flavors to see kind of what's moving. Or if your employees are ringing everything up under just one, for example, if they buy a lemon lime, a fruit punch, and a white cherry, and everything's getting rung up as a white cherry, then, depending on your system, if it decrements and whatnot, this is going to have an effect. So you can use this for, there's a lot of good purposes for it.
Food service, very similar. We track those at the category level and calculate your inventory at cost. Miscellaneous income can be recorded here. It will populate from your register. Two other fields we have of note. We have a scratch ticket or scratch off ticket inventory, and we also can track money order details if you have a need to do that. Taxes come from your register. So whatever taxes are collected on the register show up here.
Hey, just on the tax thing, it just reminds me of a incident a long time ago. Always be sure to check that these numbers match your reports. I don't know if you have anybody at the office who verifies paperwork. Corporations, companies will have accounting personnel that they go through all that. But years ago, there was a manager. It wasn't one of mine, but it was in an area where I operated. But it happened before I got there. There was a manager that was falsifying. He was changing the sales taxes, underreporting that, and then pocketing the cash. And it went on for a long, long time before anybody caught that. So just wanted to share that with you. Something for you to think about. There's so much that can be, I don't say manipulated, but where there's so many different ways that employees could take advantage of the system, and you need to understand what all this means.
Your tenders are your credit card payments. What types of credit cards do you accept? And that information will be provided here. Paid outs. We do get store supplies from the register. Other fields are optional. If you want to track paid outs, like for mowing the grass, you can put that in here, and then that'll subtract from your cash accountability and calculate with the overshort. Demographics are statistical information, non-financial information. Those are used in reports. Item inventory tracks inventory by item, should you choose to do so. You will need to do a count of your store by item, enter those counts, and then your purchases and sales will need to be, the sales will come from the register automatically. Purchases will need to be entered in vendor invoices. It will track that for you. Manager counts don't go anywhere. This is mostly used for counting cigarettes at the end of every shift. Gives the cashiers a place to record how many cigarettes were in the store at the end of their shift or the start of their shift. Inventory adjustments. These are done automatically for you based on the selling price. If it deviates from regular retail price in price book, then the system will make a automatic adjustment based on the selling retail.
So one of the things here is a smart way to do this, I think, would be to retail all your cigarettes at the same price for the sake of doing count, right? And then this is where you would, there'd be an adjustment based on what it's actually selling for. So if you bring all your cigarettes in, I don't know, it's $6.99 a pack, just an example, but you sell some at, Newports typically sell higher, so maybe Newports are $7.99. In that case, you'd see an increase, a markup of, that. But if you sold some, I don't know, GPC lights or whatever, and those sell for $5.39, then of course you'd have an adjustment. So that's kind of what it sounds like this is going to be.
You can do your markups and markdowns manually. Inside inventory is a fiscal inventory account, so that if you have a service come in or if you choose to count by category, you can enter those. That count will generate an overshort for you, and it will also become the beginning book for the next business day. General is where you keep some non-financial numbers, but also important here is beginning and ending cash. If you track that every day, the ending cash becomes the beginning cash for the next day. And if it changes, the difference between the first of the month and the end of the month gets printed on the GL trial balance or exported to your accounting system.
Okay. One of the things that I want to point out here, I see this time and time again. I mean, over the years, anytime you have somebody new, a manager, and even when you have tenured managers, whenever I visited stores, I would check these kinds of things, and no sales. That key's there for a reason. You should encourage or not discourage them to use it. Okay, because if they look for other ways to open that register, you're not going to be able to track it. And so a lot of times managers would say, hey, stop using the no sell button. Every time Mike comes in here, he gets on me about it, and I'm not really getting on him about it, but I'm asking him, hey, how come you have so many no sells? And all you need is an explanation. But a lot of times a new employee, and employees figure things out as they go along the way. They might hit the no sell when they know the price of something, take the cash and give the customer the change. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that you can track this, because you're going to go look at video, verify if you're having inventory problems, or if you suspect you might, you want to be able to do that as well. Of course, I don't see anything here on refunds, so that might be something else that you've got your voids, and typically that's what happens. Somebody comes in, they ring it up, okay, you know what, this is how much it is, customer gives them that, they void it, and then they hit the no sell button to open the register. But something for you to keep your eyes on.
So that your petty cash can be updated in your financials. And then we're back to the summary screen, where you can look and find all of the information. All the details are on the left side, and the summary gives you a good overview of everything that happened for that business day. Next thing I want to show you is how to print reports. So across the top menu, if you select reports, presented with some folders that groups the reports for you. Under operations management, we have a comprehensive store report. Select that and pick the date that you want to run that for. I'm actually going to run it through the 15th of the month. And this report will give us some projections of our sales would be. So here, first section is our fuel inventory. Notice that it has our sales to date, and then it projects how many gallons we'll sell for the month.
I really love this feature because a lot of times I'd visit a store, or, higher ups would come in and visit the store, and they'd ask managers, hey, how are things going? Things are going good. What does good mean? So if I can project, and somebody came into my location, when I was a general manager for Flying J, or, store manager, whatever the case might have been, hey, things are really good. I'm projected to do, this amount of sales. It's, blank percent of an increase over the previous year. So this is a really cool feature to have. It gives you an idea, and also it'll help you hopefully prepare to, make sure you have the stock levels, to the merchandise to sell that, to meet those projections.
Merchandise is the same way. We have our sales month to date, and then our percent of the total, and then what our projected sales are for the month.
A lot of times too, you can see here the staple items, right? And this is usually the case. Cigarettes, typically 43%, 43.5% of your sales. So it's very critical that you stay in stock, and that you make sure that your pricing, that you're checking your competitors, because this is what's bringing customers in. Along with the price of fuel, right? This is what's bringing your customers in, and you can kind of see you're going to have some variances depending on the markets. Beer, but this could change depending on the demographics. But got your packaged beverage, and you also have other tobacco, which other tobacco could be your smokeless. It could include your cigars, cigarillos, all that stuff. And in some cases, some systems might include, your rolling papers, but in other cases that might be like a non-grocery item. So pretty official information if you know how to use this. So
cash accountability is on the right side, shows you all of our sales, less cash and deposits, and our cash overshort for the month. There's about 80 or 85 different reports in the system that you can use. There's two others I want to point out to you. Under accounting, we have our sales tax report. That very quickly, just select your from to date. Just going to run it for one store. Condensed report, but if you'll notice, there's a plus sign on the left side. So if we need to see the details of what was sold, we just click that plus sign, and here it breaks out our fuel sales. We click the plus beside merchandise totals. It shows how much was sold in each category and the computed tax per category. That's dependent on you entering the correct sales tax amount in the setup screen for sales taxes. It should be correct starting out. You get your email with the link to Agility back office or Agility Next back office, and with your login and password, you'll be able to get to the setup and see that those were imported from your register. The other report I want to point out to you is an EPA report. Under fuel, we have a fuel inventory compliance report. It for a period. Run it for one store. Report has been vetted in all 50 states. Well, the lower 48 anyway. And it shows your stick open.
And this is very important that somebody's taking a look at this every day, right? Because you can see here overshort, 147, 146, 135, and you go down the line, and over here, boom, short 1,810 gallons. I wonder what could have happened there. Oh, look, there's a delivery. So either he got shorted or the delivery was entered wrong. I mean, there's different things you can look at. So I don't know if this is a cumulative overshort or just the daily overshort, Typically you have cumulative, you have by the day and then you have like a running total over short. But yeah, it's very important. If you're getting this off it's automatic tank gauge and ATG system, you still want to verify these in the morning as you're checking to see if there's any water in the tanks or anything else.
Received, sales, ending book, stick, and the overshort for the day. It calculates your overshort and shows you if you're in compliance for overshort or not. Very good to have on hand. Under category management, the purchase analysis summary, merchandise sales analysis is a really good report.
I was hoping he went into the purchase.
Run that for our period.
Summary.
Shows you by category, sales and your margin information. If you had an inventory count, those types of good information.
And that's pretty good for you to learn your business, the margin.
Lots of reports. Feel free to run them, and store summary report's a really good one. This report shows how many fuel and merchandise and food service sales, your margins, and projects what you'll do for the month based on you set the reports run for what's in the system.
All right, so projections for the remaining 11 days based on 20 days of data. So I'm guessing through 20 days, store one is $19.52 short on cash, so projecting $30.26. Okay, same thing here, gallons merchandise. QSR sales. You see some stores that are really tearing it up. You got convenience store one though, $266. But it's got a pretty good margin, 57%. So nice.
Reports. The next thing I want to look at is price book, and we're going to talk about how to maintain your scanning retails using price book instead of maintaining them on the register. Remember, with this, anywhere you have a web address or internet access with a tablet or a PC, you can pull this up, set your prices, and those get pushed to the register at your choosing.
That sounds like a really nice feature. I mean, but you have to be very careful. If you're an owner and you have multiple stores and you're managing this, anytime you change prices on an item, you need to get physical counts of that item, how much you have, because you're going to have to adjust your inventory level. So if, for example, we're going to lower the price on a 12-pack of Cokes from $6.99 to $5.99, well, for a period of time, now you've got to make that adjustment on the books. Otherwise, you're going to create some shrink. So you need to tell it how many you have on hand so that you know, because you might get a delivery, somewhere later down the line, and so you've really got to know what you're starting with whenever you make a price change, whether up or down, right? And also like what you're ending with if you're doing promotions, so that you can go back and adjust those back up and fix your inventory. Otherwise, you're just going to create a big history, a nightmare for if you're not doing audits on a regular basis. It's going to accumulate. You're going to it's going to be out of whack. So you have to be disciplined. This is a great feature, but just understand that, how it works and the other parts that are affected, okay?
Price book, if I select sales, we're going to manage the retail price of one item right now. So we select it by item. This is a filter. So if I was interested in Coke products or anything that entered in Coke, and I wanted to change this Coke 1 liter, I click edit there, and I click the retail tab, and it's currently at $1.99. Let's say that needs to go up to $2.09. I simply click add. I enter 2.09, effective that date, and save. I have just changed that price of the retail selling price of that item.
All right, so something else to consider. You might say, well, Mike, the system is going to track all this automatically, right? If you're scanning everything in, yeah, but you also have shrink, and if you make any adjustments on an audit and something was missed and it didn't get counted, then now you have more than you actually had. And so, you have to be real careful. These things are really nice and they can help you out, but you really, really have to do your part to manage it. So on this, if this is sales quantity, which is what I think it is, S quantity 1, so 1, that's not, you're not necessarily telling the system how many you had so that it knows. But let's just see what happens. So the effective date is this. I'm wondering if this is when the promotion period is going to end. Most likely, let's see.
That when this gets to the register, it will then scan at that price. Under packages, it shows the UPC number that item stored under. Those are the important things for scanning: is the package information and the retail. And of course, here's your point of sale description.
Now, it'd be nice if you could put a PLU, like a shortened PLU, and maybe you can, I don't know. But when you go back into what we were talking about earlier, when it comes to sales items or you're trying to verify something sold, it's a lot easier if you can, have like a 3-number PLU, a 3-digit PLU or something. But just, that's just kind of nitpicking, I guess, or getting too deep.
That's how you maintain the retail for a single item. Want to be able to mass update prices. So let's say for all 20-ounce Coke products, we will set a promotion in place. This is a workbench screen. It's under sales, mass update, market price. We'll clear our list, and you can add as many items to this list as you'd like, get it the way you want it, and then commit to the database. And from there, there's one more step to send it to the register. So here we're going to add items. This is a, for lack of a better word, a filter or a select search list.
And this is kind of where I think if you have 20-ounce Coke products, right? Not just Coke, but Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, any other products that Coke might bring. I think it varies from market to market. In some markets, Dr. Pepper is part of Coke. In some markets, it's its own, or whatever the case is. And that's just an example off the top of my head. So yeah, this is where you would put all the different flavors. For example, of Crush, orange crush, grape crush, pineapple crush, whatever, 20 ounce, and that's where they would you'd update them in here. Seems like.
I'm going to search on unit of measure. So I'm interested in 20-ounce Coke products. And I'm going to set the price to $1.25. We'll make that for Memorial Day weekend, the 27th, and end it 30th. And select next. So here's all our Coke products. Current price is $1.79. It's going to change it to $1.25 for the weekend.
This is nice because everything's there. Everything showed up, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier, maybe prematurely. But, again, we want to make sure that we go back to, remember we got to do counts, because otherwise, right now, the way it stands on your books, you're getting $1.79 for each one of these. Right? So you need to tell it how many you have at $1.79 that you're taking down to $1.25. This is going to track how many you sell. But again, you have to think about what might be not rung up and, to keep track of your inventory.
I'm going to select all and view my list. So here's our price change. $1.79 going to $1.25, starting 5/27. If I commit that to the database, then it will record that promotion, and that will.
I wonder if that's the margin with the new price, 34%, or the change in margin, the drop in margin now, from 179 to 125. I guess I won't know that without knowing what the cost of the item is, having access to the invoice to see what it would be per unit. But anyway, now, if that's what it is after the price change, that's still pretty good.
Will be sent to the store. Save that. If we go down to send it to the store, it's very straightforward. You go to integration, price book build, select your store, send to site, and then on the top in the far right corner, select build. Okay. Screen will take a moment and refresh. And that'll take 2 or 3 minutes to build the files for the store. And then those are sent automatically to the register. This is all you have to do. So anytime you do a build, it will update the POU files and scanning prices on the register for you.
I'm curious about the time clock feature.
If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact support. Send an email to support@gaspos.co, and Davis or I will be happy to answer any questions you might have or help you to set something up so that it works good for you. Hope you enjoy Agility Back Office, Agility Next Back Office from GAS POS.
I think this is really neat. They've got a lot of neat features. I love technology, but I can tell you sometimes it's really easy to get lost in stuff. And so while this can do a lot for you, and it really is, you have to have a good understanding of the foundation, right? The basics. So, otherwise, if something goes wrong, you're not going to be able to correct it, or understand the impact that it's having. But this is really neat. I would have loved to have seen, and obviously this is just a short tutorial, but I'd love to see how the time clock works, maybe some of the other reports that were there. Interesting though, very, very neat, and I kind of like this. So hopefully you picked up some stuff from here, learned something. I thought it's a pretty cool thing. All right, GAS POS. There you go.